All right, let's talk about one of the absolute cornerstones of good writing, the paragraph. We're going to break down how to build one that's not just clear, but actually powerful and persuasive.
You know the feeling, right? You get an essay back from a professor and the margins are just covered in red ink. And you're left thinking, okay, but what do I do now? It's super frustrating, and honestly, it almost always comes down to the same few comments.
Oof, do any of these look familiar? Too descriptive, lacks analysis, or my personal favorite, the dreaded "so what?" They all tell you something's wrong, but they don't exactly hand you a roadmap to fix it. But here's the good news. The solution is actually pretty simple. See, the problem usually isn't about your grammar or even your ideas. It's that you're using the wrong type of writing for the job. And once you see that difference, I promise, a huge light bulb is going to go off. So let's start with that big one, the too descriptive problem. This is probably the most common piece of feedback out there, and it gets right to the heart of the difference between just listing facts and actually making a point.
Here it is, right here. Descriptive writing is all about the what. It just states the facts, who did what, where, and when. It's like being a reporter. But analytical writing, that's the so what. That's when you become a detective. You explain why it all matters. And making that shift is literally the key to taking your writing to the next level. So, analysis is really where your voice, your brain, comes into the picture. It's your job to connect the dots for the reader. You show them the evidence, sure, but then you explain what that evidence means. Without it, you're just throwing a bunch of information on the page and hoping for the best.
Okay, so how do we make sure we're doing that every single time? Well, it turns out there's a simple, universal blueprint, a structure that works for pretty much any academic paragraph you'll ever need to write.
It all boils down to these 4 parts. You've got the claim, the proof, the analysis, which is the most important, and the connection. Let's break down what each of these jobs are.
First up, your claim. You can also call it your topic sentence. Think of this as the promise you're making to your reader for this paragraph. It's one single, focused idea, and everything else you write is going to be in service of proving this one sentence.
Okay, so you've made your promise. Now you've got to show the receipts. That's your proof. This is your hard evidence, a quote you pulled from a book, a statistic from a study, a specific historical detail. But just dropping it in there isn't enough.
And this quote from Duke's writing studio nails it. This is probably the single biggest mistake people make. You can't just plop a fact down and expect the reader to know what to do with it. You have to do the heavy lifting for them. And that brings us to the most critical step of all. This is the analysis. This is your thinking on the page. It's where you unpack the evidence and explicitly explain how it proves the claim you made at the beginning. It's where you finally answer that "so what" question. A really great rule of thumb? For every one sentence of proof, try to write at least 2 sentences of your own analysis. That forces your voice to be the guide.
And last but not least, the connection. This final sentence is like the bow on top. It wraps up the point you just made, and, this is key, it links it back to your entire essay's main argument. It shows your reader how this little piece fits into the giant puzzle you're building.
Let's look at this in the wild. On the left, you've got a paragraph about the Postal Service. It's fine, it has facts, but it's just a list, it's descriptive. Now look to the right. It uses the exact same facts, but look at those italicized sentences. That's the analysis. The writer steps in and tells us why these facts matter. All of a sudden, a list of facts becomes a real argument. That's the power we're talking about. Now, you've probably heard a million different acronyms for this stuff in school. You know, PL or TL or PI or MEAL. It can feel like you have to learn a whole new system for every teacher. Well, I'm going to let you in on a secret. They are all the exact same thing. Seriously, look at this. Whether you call it the claim or the topic sentence or, my personal favorite, the top bun of the paragraph hamburger, it's all doing the same job. The proof is your example or your toppings, and the most important part, the analysis, well, that's the explanation or the meat of the hamburger. The labels change, but the job of each sentence never does.
So the big takeaway here is, don't get bogged down in the alphabet soup of acronyms. Just focus on the function. Does my paragraph make a clear claim? Does it back it up with proof? Does it explain why that proof matters? And does it connect back to the big picture? If you can say yes to those 4 things, you're golden.
And this really gets to the most important point of all, because this structure, it isn't just about putting words on a page in the right order. It's about organizing your thoughts. At its core, writing is thinking.
And once you've got that strong structure for your thinking, the last 10% is just polishing it so it shines. You know, simple stuff. Using transition words so it flows smoothly, keeping a formal tone, avoiding contractions, and of course the final spell check. These little things make a huge difference in how professional and persuasive your thinking comes across.
And that's what it all comes back to. This 4-part blueprint isn't some rigid formula you have to follow like a robot. Think of it more like scaffolding. It's a flexible framework that helps you build your thoughts clearly, connect your ideas in a logical way, and make a really convincing case for your reader one step at a time.
So, the next time you sit down to write, don't just think about what you're going to say. Think about this. A paragraph isn't just a chunk of text. It's a single, complete thought. So before you even start typing, ask yourself the question you see on the screen. What is the one thought I want to leave with my reader in this paragraph? If you can answer that clearly, you are well on your way. Thanks so much for tuning in.